Hello and welcome. My name is John-David Robb. I'm an educational assistant instructor with Ashton College, one of the instructors in their educational assistant certificate program. I come from a very long and healthy background in special education as an EA or educational assistant, working with students from kindergarten all the way up through the high school ranks. I am also a panelist for the Geneva Center for Autism and have completed the ABA strategies guidelines set out by some of the local school boards within our area. Today, I welcome you to this micro lesson where we're going to talk about some topics that are important as an EA. Talk about the importance of an EA within the school system. The topic that we're going to be discussing today is, of course, building trust and stability for special needs students. And the first thing that I like to do whenever I talk about this topic is I like to ask how many people have a favorite teacher, perhaps someone growing up, going through the school ranks that you remember fondly. And then what I like to do is ask, can you recall a time where perhaps that educator was away? How did that make you feel? Probably you missed them, or you felt as though the school wasn't the same without them. Well, that feeling is normal for everyone, including our special needs students. The difference is our special needs students require that extra level of support. You see, they're hesitant learners, and that's where you come in as an EA. You'll build a relationship with these students. You'll come to be known to them as their safe person. And so oftentimes they'll see you at the school, on the yard, in the hallway, and a big smile will come across their face because they now know they're safe. You're there. You become their sort of, safety beacon. So when you're away, or times throughout the year that cause for a heightened sense of anxiousness or anxieties, we have to look at ways to help lessen that. And so there are roughly 3 times for sure that are going to be high stress for our students throughout the year. The first, of course, is the winter break. The second is the spring break, and finally, the summer break. And we're going to touch on all 3 of those today. But before we do that, I'd like to just ask each and every one of you to take a minute and ask yourself this question. How do you feel when you think of special education? How do you feel, when you think about breaks, holidays? Do you feel happy? Do you get nervous? The reason I ask you these questions is because I want you to make personal connections to these feelings so that you can understand to then how to apply strategies and accommodations to our special needs individuals once you've built relationships with them. And so one of the strategies that I used to employ was if I knew I was going to be away. So let's say I knew that I was going away to a conference. What I would do is a little recording. I would do a recording just like I am right now here with you. And I would just simply say, good morning to, and then I would insert my student's last name. And I would just give them some reassurance. I'm sorry that I'm not going to be there today, but I know that you're going to have a great day working with the individual that's coming in to see you. And I'll be back tomorrow, and I want to hear all about what a great day you've had. That one little strategy can help to maintain some semblance of routine for our students. You not being there, the day is already going to be a little bit out of sorts. So what you need to do is plan ahead and strategize for these events. And that way you minimize the impact that your absence will have on these students. Now, on top of that, it sounds great. You're going to be away, take a few minutes, shoot a video. Wonderful. On the days when you wake up first thing in the morning, your stuffy nose, you have a fever, you don't feel well, and you're not going to be going into work on that day, do the same thing. And you email that to your teaching partner. and just a little caption that says, please show this to so-and-so, see you tomorrow. Again, every time we can alleviate some of those anxieties in our students, the more often we set them up for success. And at the end of the day, the goal is to set our students up for success in any way that we can do that. It's wonderful when you have time that you know you're going to be absent from them to give them that warning. So again, if I knew I was going to be away next Thursday, I would start today. And I would just say, oh, just a heads up, even though it's a holiday weekend, we're coming back on Tuesday, I'm going to be away next Thursday. There, I've planted the seed. Tomorrow being Friday, same thing, a reference. Don't forget, just want to let you know, next week, Mr. Robb has to be away for the day. At the end of the day, your student's going to go home, they're going to forget. Especially with a long weekend, they're going to forget. They come back on Tuesday, good morning, how was your weekend? Did you do anything exciting? Oh, before I forget, I just want to remind you that I'm going to be away in a couple of days, or I'm going to be away on Thursday, however you'd like to do it. You're continuously reinforcing that you're going to be absent, so that way you're giving them as much advance notice as possible, so that when they come into school on Thursday, you'll still have made the video, because let's not forget, they're not going to remember right away on that day until they show up and there's somebody else there. So we're trying our best at every turn to alleviate and help them navigate through these days where there might be disruptions within their learning. The same thing goes for breaks throughout the year, throughout the school year. Anytime there is a long duration from being out of school to being away and then coming back, those are high stress times for our special needs students. When you think about it, they've come to the school 5 days a week, they've seen you 5 days a week, they've worked with you, they've sat next to you, they've laughed with you, and now they're going to be separated from you. That's a big issue because they genuinely will come to have a care for you. And so the same thing would apply, right? We would build up strategies to help alleviate their fears, their hesitancies. And at the end of the day, we want to make sure that we can do that, and it helps to strengthen that relationship. A strong relationship with a spec ed student can help them to engage in the learning. And that's one of the many roles that an educational assistant will provide within the school. You become, a support beacon, like I said before, they're a safe person, but you also give them the confidence to engage in the learning. The learning is where all of this sort of culminates and pays off. Because when you have a student that has that trust in you, they trust you are their EA, you are going to work for them, with them, and do what's best for them, then they're going to want to engage in that learning for you. And that's sort of the payoff for you, is to see that student engage in the work and to really be a part of the learning. And so continuously coming up with new strategies, whether that's through training, whether that's through conferencing with your special education resource team, all of those things come together to help you be more prepared to work with these students. The wonderful thing about all of that is that when you enroll and you engage in a program like the Educational Assistant Certificate here at Ashton College, we talk about a lot of these strategies, right? We go over the practical side of things. We don't just say, here's a textbook, jump in, we'll see you on Friday, right? We like to bring our own experiences from the classroom. So case in point, I had over 20 years working as an educational assistant. That has very graciously given me a deep well to pull from experiences, interactions, training, a lot of things that, might seem slightly outdated now as far as the education industry goes, but given the right student with the right profile, definitely would work. A lot of the things that, I'm envious of now is that our students today could come to this wonderful online delivery. I didn't have that back in, well, let's just say back in the day. I don't want to give a timestamp. I didn't have that. I was in a classroom 5 days a week, what felt like sun up to sundown. So I'm truly envious that we have the live classes and the recorded sessions. You in real time in those online classrooms, you get to not only have the theoretical side given to you, you get the practical side as well from the fabulous instructors here. And then once you sort of take all of those wonderful seeds of learning that we're going to give you, you go out and you have your field placement or your practicum. And that takes place in classrooms, possibly daycares as well. And you get to then get your own hands-on experience within a classroom working with our special needs students. Whether that's in a kindergarten setting, as our emergent learners are just sort of coming into the school system, or whether you're placed in a high school setting. One of the things that I like to sort of remind everyone now is there is such a demand for educational assistance throughout this country that you, to an extent, pretty much have the ability to work at whatever grade level you would like, or in almost any school, dependent upon where you live. Some cities have a larger amount of schools and some have a smaller amount of schools, but there is work. And there is not only work, but meaningful work. And that's another piece that we need to make sure and get across, is that the work that an educational assistant does is meaningful work. We're helping our most vulnerable of individuals within the school system and within the community for that matter. We're helping them to develop and grow and to basically join society successfully. There's an old saying that the true job, if you get right down to what does it actually mean to be an educational assistant, what is the job really, what are you meant to do? You are actually meant to work yourself out of a job. That's the true role of an educational assistant, is to work yourself out of a job. The great news, I've never seen it happen, because there are always students who need support. And there are always going to be people that want to be that support. And I hope that some of you here today, watching afterwards, become those individuals and take those next steps to go into the school system and be that supportive individual for a student who just needs a little extra assistance. The skills that you'll pick up at Ashton, the practical hands-on knowledge that you'll get, you take all of those things and you create what I like to call the Rolodex of strategies. And the fact that I just said Rolodex out loud should probably tell a lot of you how long I've been in the education game. I don't think Rolodexes are even a thing anymore, but the Rolodex of strategies. You take what we give you here at the college, you apply it in the classroom, but you make it your own. And take these things, you make them your own, and then you'll see how they work with other students. Now, when we get to those times where the big breaks are coming, we have one coming up relatively soon, within the next month, summer holidays. Okay. For a lot of our students, that's going to be a time where they're going to really need some assurances. They've gone now 10 months almost working with you, seeing you on a regular basis. And now we're going to have 2 months where they're not going to see you. There might be some concern or panic about whether or not you're going to see you next year. Are you coming back? Are you going to be at this school next year? These are questions I used to get all the time. Mr. Robb, are you going to be back next year? And I would just say, well, I really hope so. I'm looking forward to seeing all of you again, and leave it at that. You never make a promise. That's the only thing that I have to remind everyone. And sometimes I'd have to remind myself, don't make promises. but you would love to go back and see them again. But again, doing something to help alleviate those anxieties, letting the child know you want to see them again. You're looking forward to seeing them again. Everything has a positive spin. They respond to the positive in hopes that we alleviate some of those tensions. And make no mistake about it. Here's the part that I just about forgot to mention, but I will mention it. Here's the part that I forgot. You're going to miss them as well, because for all the connection that they have to you, you're also going to end up having a connection with your students. You want them to succeed. You want them to communicate with peers. You want them to build their social skills, their social interactions. You do so by modeling all this for them. When you do that, you cannot help but make a connection to those students. I will say it openly here that we used to get to the last week of June, and it would be like, oh, I can't wait until June 30th or July 1st or whatever. I can't wait. But in your back of your mind, I would always think to myself, I wonder what it's going to be like all summer. Like, I won't see them. What are they going to forget? Are they going to remember what we did? Are they going to remember, the times that we were, played soccer? So it's one of those things where you can't help but get connected with your students as well, which is really nice. As I said at the beginning, the more you can do to help alleviate their stress, their anxieties, the more positive of an experience they're going to have with you. You're going to get a better understanding of how to engage in those strategies through the program here at Ashton. If there is any and all hesitation or doubt whether or not you're making the right choice by signing up for the educational assistant certificate, I always say to students, go back and think about some of the happier times that you had in a classroom, and remember the times and remember the adults and how much you felt cared for, attended to, and truly welcome. You get to do that for someone else, and you get to help them learn and grow and develop and become an adult and go out into the world and be successful. I've run into students all throughout that I used to work with. I ran into a student a couple of weeks ago. He came up to me. We were at Costco of all places, and I couldn't believe he was 23 years old. And what really baffled me was he's 23. He looked 23. I still look as young as I did when I was in his class. It baffled my mind. But that's a story for another time, of course. As an instructor, I look forward to always having students come in and really learn and get an understanding for what it is. So I don't say these things lightly. Is that the level of importance that an EA can really have, not only in a school, not only to the student, but into the general community as well. Because it's not only one student you're going to work with at the end of the day. You're going to work with many students, and many students are going to know you. They're going to want to spend time with you. So doing this program is definitely going to prepare you. All right. Well, then on that fantastic note, I'd like to thank you all so much for being a part of this video, being a part of this lesson, coming here today. And I invite each and every one of you to learn more about Ashton College by visiting the website. And I hope to see you all in class really soon. Thank you so much. Take care.